Morning, everyone. So I'm going to make a start now, and hopefully, not too many people will join too late. So thank you all for attending. Today's webinar is focused on staying ahead of sustainability compliance, and we have some wonderful guest speakers. Just a little bit of background. This webinar is exclusive for our EcoSmart community as part of one of your benefits for being an EcoSmart certified property. Some of the regulations we're going to talk about today are EPC, the TM44 air conditioning inspections, and commercial food waste. So just a quick overview from us about why this now matters is more and more businesses are seeing sustainability compliance as going from optional to mandatory now, and fines do range from £1,000 to £50,000. So it is really important to make sure that if you do need to meet any compliance, you are meeting them, because it could be costly if you don't. Out of a survey from the Deloitte Sustainable Consumer Behaviour Index, 67% of UK businesses reported last year an increase in compliance costs, where they are now making sure that they are meeting all compliances. And 78% of consumers from the Financial Times Sustainable Business Tracker are also saying that they are now considering sustainability in purchasing decisions. So what we hope you gain today is a bit of a compliance roadmap. So some immediate actions around your EPC and TM44 requirements, and practical strategies for implementing new recycling and food waste, and that's with some of our partners. Just leaving you on one more stat, because I do love a stat, but out of and hopefully, because most of you have a lot of sustainable practices being EcoSmart certified, out of a recent research, those businesses that are already proactively sustainable see a 33% reduction in compliance related costs. So hopefully, if you do require to meet some of these compliances on this call, your cost should be a lot lower because you are already doing a lot of sustainable practices. So who's going to be on our panel today? We've got the wonderful Simon Catterick from Mission Net Zero, who are one of our amazing partners we work with, who support lots of hospitality companies on their sustainability journey, supporting them from everything from EPCs to carbon measurement via doing the HDMI for companies. So Simon will go into great detail about what they do. And we have Lindsay from WRAP Guardians of Grub, who are possibly one of my favourite solutions around food management, and she will share some amazing stories and results they've managed to achieve with some venues. So I'm going to hand you over now to Simon, and I will speak to you at the end. If you do have any questions or any things you would like to get covered, or anything that you really want to sort of say, oh, I'm really worried about this regulation, don't actually know what it means, do pop it in the chat, and we will get to those at the end of our webinar today. So I'm going to hand you over to Simon now.
Lovely. Thanks very much indeed, Louise. When you said I'm going into it in great detail, maybe not so great today because I don't want to leave everyone behind, but hopefully to give everyone a flavour of the current regulations and the changes which are coming to act as food for thought and next steps. Yeah, firstly, hi everyone. It's great to be with you here online today. As you've heard, I'm Simon from Mission Net Zero, and over the next few minutes, I'm going to be giving you a practical overview of how the hospitality sector is progressing in relation to commercial EPCs, to MEES and TM44s, and also touching on SECR and ESOS compliance. And possibly for some of you, it might be appropriate to know actually what those mean. So as I said, we'll also touch on some upcoming changes the government's considering, with more clarity expected from them on that later this year. So just to talk a little bit more about what we do at Mission Net Zero. As Louise explained, we're a ESG consultancy focused on the travel and tourism and hospitality sector. So we speak your language. Our aim is to help businesses make real progress on their sustainability goals, whether that's through compliance, improvement of their buildings and reducing running costs, or their sustainable management and operation, which is evidenced through programs like GreenGage. So our job is all about making sustainability work in the real world and not just on paper. You'll see from these next few slides, which we'll flick through, that we work with a wide range of clients, from international investment groups and leading owners and operators, some of whom I know are on the call today. We work with global hospitality brands, and we also work with independent hospitality clients and eco-certified businesses. So this wide range of clients gives us a really good understanding in the real world of what the sector is currently grappling with and the challenges that are faced. And that understanding gives us the opportunity, together with GreenGage, to deliver a range of solutions that can help you keep up with or one step ahead of sustainability compliance for our sector. So let's just touch on what those 4 key frameworks that currently support net zero targets are. And it's important to note, recognising that we've got a wide geographical spread on the call, that some of these regulations are firmly established in England and Wales, but their adoption in Scotland and Ireland can sometimes vary. So firstly, you'll probably already know that commercial EPCs, like you have at home, are a legal requirement when either constructing, renting, or selling a property. In this case, obviously, a commercial property. And MEES, which is the Minimum Energy Efficiency Standards, sets a minimum EPC rating to legally lease a property. Currently, it's an E, or the equivalent, in Scotland, but the government wants to raise that to a C rating by 2028 and a B rating by 2030. TM44, it's another acronym, but basically it's all about air conditioning systems over 12 kilowatts, where importantly inspections are required by law with potentially unlimited fines every 5 years. And for some of you, SECR and ESOS applies because it's currently for larger organisations with a very high turnover or balance sheet or number of employees, which we can talk about separately if you wish through the questions, where mandatory energy audits and reporting to the government are required every 1 year if SECR applies, or 4 years for ESOS. So why is it all important? Well, it's partly about supporting UK net zero targets, and as Louise suggested, it's also about avoiding fines for non-compliance, but it's also about best practice. So it's about protecting the value of a property and a business, which can also open up potential access to green finance, which for a number of investors and owners is important. It's also about creating property improvement plans, or PIPs, that can transform and future-proof your property and also help you to reduce running costs. And as we all know, with stakeholders increasingly expecting our businesses to demonstrate authentic energy and carbon reduction strategies, these certifications are a really good way of communicating you've got a credible plan and that you're acting on it. So these frameworks also give you the kind of robust data you need to align with your stakeholders' ESG requirements. They're also the building blocks for current ESG non-financial reporting frameworks like the EU's CSRD, which you may or may not be familiar with, and the new UK Sustainability Disclosure Standards, which are mandatory for some businesses, but the government is increasingly hoping that businesses will voluntarily sign up for. And they're also helpful if you're aiming to improve your Greengage EcoSmart rating, which I'm sure is true of all or certainly most of you on this call. So instead of thinking of compliance as just a legal obligation, you could think of it as a way to reduce risk in your business, to lower carbon and also energy costs. You can think of it as a way to improve the property's value. And importantly, with Greengage EcoSmart in mind, to strengthen your ESG story. Also, if you haven't required an EPC, for instance, for purely compliance purposes, if you're not building, selling or leasing a property, you might want to consider one, like many of our clients do, together with a costed recommendations report, which can be really valuable for your business. And that's because if you're thinking about a short, medium, or a long-term property improvement plan, the report can give you a clear picture of how your building is performing energy-wise and highlights where you can make smart, cost-effective improvements. So ultimately, it helps you make more informed decisions. It helps you improve efficiency, and it helps you to stay ahead of the new sustainability regulations that are coming down the track fast. And on that basis, let's have a look at what's changing. So, well, with the ongoing decarbonisation of the UK national grid, which means that businesses that had EPCs conducted 3, 4, 5, 6 or longer years or many more years ago, the EPCs are gradually getting better in terms of their ratings, and the government wants businesses to have EPCs moving forward somewhere between 2 to 5 years. MEES targets, they're getting stricter. The government is considering an EPC rating for commercial properties by 2028 of C and B by 2030, which means that many businesses are going to need to take proactive action, or then as a matter of urgency will need to start dealing with things reactively. We've seen, and you may have seen, that TM44 enforcement is really picking up. Many businesses we see keep their EPCs up to date, but their TM44 has lapsed. Many businesses didn't do it when COVID was affecting all businesses and haven't yet caught up with that. But it's really important not to skip the 5-year check so as to avoid potentially unlimited fines. And ESOS Phase 4 will ask for more detail and progress tracking with the next deadline, which is December 27. Now, this isn't always easy in hospitality, as we know. We're operationally stretched. We don't necessarily have the time or the budget or indeed full-time sustainability leads within our businesses. Also, when compulsory and ESG and voluntary ESG standards are still evolving, it's difficult sometimes to know what to do, where to start, at what pace to go. And we know that data collection can be difficult. Louise touched on the HCMI carbon footprinting. Scope 3 emissions, calculating them can be tough. And of course, no one wants to be accused of greenwashing. So that's why practical, credible, tailored strategies are so important. And that's where we come in. So at Mission, as Louise says, we focus on making all of this possible for SME businesses and enterprise clients in the travel and tourism space. In addition, to our other sustainability services, we do deliver EPCs and TM44 assessments and the certification and the recommendations reports. And we provide SECR and ESOS audits and reports, in addition to energy management and carbon and reduction surveys. And all of those can be aligned to your future property improvement plans and your wider ESG strategies. So it's all about delivering meaningful change and not just ticking boxes. A couple of quick examples of this. One is Village Hotels, who work very closely with Greengage, who asked us to update their EPCs across the UK. We delivered that project portfolio wide, and it helped Village stay compliant whilst giving their ESG strategy real substance and aligned with Blackstone, who's their new global real estate owner. And with the luxurious 5-star resort Cameron House on Loch Lomond, we supported the sustainability team. And I think Jim and Tim are on today's call. And we worked with them on their EPC and ESOS commitments. You'll see here that Jim says, having conducted the assessments, we helped make sense of the results and we translated them into clear actions for them and their wider team to focus on moving forward. So this is just a quick summary table of who needs what, when, and why. And it's a good reference point. But with evolving standards, it's one which we, together with Greengage, can revisit with you as regulations continue to evolve. So if you're not sure where you stand or what to prioritise, the Greengage team can help you. In closing, thanks again for joining today. If you'd like to explore how we can support your sustainability goals, we'd love to speak with you. So please feel free to make contact with us via Louise and the wider Greengage team. So with that, I'm handing over now to Lindsay from RAB.
Thanks, Simon. Really interesting. Lots of timeframes, stats, figures, etc. In there for everybody to digest. So bear with me as I just get my slides up. Can everybody see my screen okay? Fantastic. Yes. Okay, so for those that haven't met me before, I'm Lindsay Penny. I am a food waste prevention specialist with RAP. Have been in post for about 3 years. Prior to that, I worked in the sector, had worked in contract catering, restaurants, retail, large leisure sites, and also hotels. So very passionate about making sure that what we say, what we try, we deliver, that it's relative to operational teams, and that it can be delivered at a site level as well as across an organisation. So today I'm going to touch on simpler recycling for the hospitality sector, and how these regulations will impact your business. However, as I said at the start, I focus on food waste prevention and the food waste system side rather than all of the other pieces. So I'll try and cover them today. If there is any questions that I can't answer, I'll certainly take them away and speak to the relevant teams and come back to you through Louise and the team at Greengage. But where I'm going to focus today is on how to optimise your waste systems, particularly food, and how you can use the understanding from that food waste to actually reduce your costs, stay compliant, and also contribute to a more sustainable future within your organisation. So What is simpler recycling? Whether you're an owner, a manager, or just even part of a sustainability team, these steps can help you plan to optimize and comply with the new regulations. The new regulations came into play on the 31st of March this year for any organisation with 10 or more full-time employees. And those that are smaller than that, it will come into play from 2027. I say it's especially around food waste and recycling, but I will focus more on the food waste elements today. So why does your business need to recycle? Okay, we know that it's good for the environment. We don't want any waste that can be utilised in any form to end up in landfill. So we know it's good for the environment, but what we don't always focus on is it's actually good for our business to reduce and recycle where we possibly can. We reduce our disposable costs, we support our sustainability goals. It also helps enhance the brand's reputation at a time when everybody's looking for us to be more green, to be more focused on sustainability initiatives and to be able to talk about them. And as Simon said, to be able to demonstrate authenticity in these as well. With these new regulations coming in, there's also a growing demand for these services. So perfect time for everybody to act. We know that food waste alone costs the UK hospitality over £3.2 billion a year. And with all of the additional costs through cost of living, we know that this figure has got higher over the last couple of years, and I'm sure you are all feeling the challenges of that. So we talk about the food waste the waste hierarchy within WRAP, and it shows the best ways to manage our waste streams. Prevention is always best. If we can prevent it, we're not purchasing and throwing something in the bin, but also we're not being charged for the joy of removing that either and taking it away from our businesses. We also suggest that where we can, we reuse things, and then we move to recycle. Ultimately, then, if there is a way to recover and a value from that, and then final is disposal as a last resort. So we try to keep at the top of the hierarchy and prevent wherever we possibly can. But if that is not possible, then reuse, recycle, and hopefully by the end, which is the disposal, and as I've already touched on, there is a cost for that, sorry. Complying with legislation. So your business has a duty of care as well as a legal obligation to manage waste responsibly. This means using registered waste carriers, keeping proper documentation and separating all your recyclables out to avoid contamination. Remember that these practices don't make business sense, they are a legal requirement. And as I've already said, from the 31st of March, businesses in England with 10 or more full-time employees must separate dry recyclables and food waste for collection. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we plan for our recycling needs? We start with a waste audit. We identify what types of waste we produce in our organisation and where they're coming from, and also the scales of how much is generated. On the Business of Recycling website, there is all the resources you can possibly need to help you through this process, along with the Guardians of Grub website as well. Louise and the team will share these links with you afterwards as well. But from there, when you see where your waste is coming from, you can build a waste action plan. In this, you can set goals, you can assign responsibilities, and ultimately create a roadmap and action plan for improvement. And as I say, this is all available on the website. But what we suggest is don't put this on one person's shoulders. Don't take the responsibility of this yourself. We know through experience the collaboration and using the entire team, from your frontline team right through to your finance team, HR, supply chain. Everybody has a part to play in this. And if you have the conversations and include everybody, you get all of the different perspectives, but it also, it makes the job a lot easier for yourself. Then step 3, you calculate your waste costs. So again, on the website, you can use the business waste calculator, which will give you a bit of a cost savings analysis. So you put in what you find from your audit and it will help give you some savings. This is great if you're having to create a business case, you know, for your senior leadership team, etc. This can give you the ammunition, it can give you a bit of support in getting backing for this. Then you can input the data on the bins, the collection frequency, the storage space, and it will help you to identify where you need the bins, how many bins you need, looking at your workflows. Obviously, we know that in a lot of our kitchens, our spaces are tight. Obviously, this isn't just for kitchens, but if we talk about food waste, etc., our kitchen space is tight. So utilising that and trying to make it work, that the team don't see this as another responsibility that they have to follow, or another tick box, or there's a bin in our road again. It's adding it into your daily routine. It's making it that it makes sense, and it helps with efficiency. Step 4, setting up your recycling. So just touched on that. So choosing the right bins and the storage areas based on the waste types and the flows for your organisation. Label these clearly and colour code them across all of your site. Again, on the Business of Recycling website, there's labels, etc. there that you can use just to make it easier. And ultimately, if we train the staff and set up collection contracts with our certified carriers, as I said, collaboration is key. Your carriers and waste collection teams can help with this. They're doing it in all organisations across England, so should be able to advise and provide you with support and potentially some resources specific to them. But as I say, training your staff, getting collaboration, getting the team on board on the journey for what works for their kitchens, what works for your back of house areas, even if we're looking at housekeeping and things that are coming out of the rooms, etc. Making sure it works in their workflow, because one size doesn't fit all. And experience tells us if we tell people what to do, we build resistance. If we ask people what they think about it and how they can help to implement it, we see a much more significant take up. Slightly different example, but we did a small pilot with pub groups, and where communication and collaboration interventions were used with the team. Over a 12-week period, we've seen a reduction of over 60% in food waste compared to those sites that didn't engage their teams. So yeah, if you can get the teams on board, it really makes a difference. Then step 5, monitor, improve. Check the bins regularly, for contamination, but also to identify what it is that's being wasted. And again, you can go through that process of repeating the audits, to measure your progress, but also to see, has it changed? Obviously, if you've picked up in your first audits one waste stream and you've managed that, then by repeating the audit, you can then manage the next one. And again, reduce your cost in another area. And you can probably see a theme here, gathering staff feedback and tracking service performance from your provider. All of that information can really help you to shape a long-term strategy that's going to work for your organisation. So I know I've talked about food basically throughout, but from a food waste focus, we have WRAP's Guardians of Grub campaign, which provides all the tools you need to measure, reduce and repurpose food waste. And from here, we know even small changes can lead to big savings. Preventing waste saves is more cost effective, and preventing it is 2 to 3 times cost less than the disposal. Ultimately, if we look at the journey, nobody wants to go through the process of ordering and purchasing food for that food then to be delivered to a site, to then be put away in a fridge, to be then taken out, to be then prepared, to never be served to a customer, or potentially be served to a customer and end up as plate waste, to then the staff having to scrape those plates or empty those bins, and then to add insult to injury, then have to pay for that food waste to be taken away. So again, prevention is really key. So let's take a look at some hotel groups that have already put these things into action. And on the Guardians of Grub website, there is lots of different case studies. I've just pulled a couple out today that are hotel based. So one hotel improved their internal bin setup. They engaged their housekeeping teams and their kitchen teams, and shifted the culture, which in the end reduced their food waste by 18%, which was an annual saving for that one site of over £4,000. Now, this was a few years ago, so with the cost of living and all of the prices that we felt hike up over the last few years, we can see that that saving would be even higher. And then the Everglades, another hotel, they dropped their food waste by 22%, and that was from empowering their frontline teams and chefs to identify where food waste was coming from, the hot spots, and they were able to do this by measuring, so seeing what was going into the bin. An example that I have, and it's not this one, but is Chips, a organization that I used to work for. We would have had, it was a large site, would have had over 7,000 portions of chips a day served, and by them not using the correct spoodle or scoop to serve the chips, the weight of the portion was out by spec, so we weren't hitting our GP. We'd looked at everything, we'd done stock takes, couldn't come to what was causing it. Then we identified that this was the issue, and actually just by managing, obviously it was a big scale item, but by managing just chips, we ended up being able to improve our GP by 2.5%. So yeah, these little things that you think mean nothing actually lead to big improvements. And then drive and change through your team. So I'm really keen, and through our Guardians of Grub platform, you'll see that we really focus on how your team can make a big difference. And we're not talking just about your frontline team. All of the support functions, your SLT, everybody has a part to play, because we're asking for real strategic change. So some examples to do this is to assign a recycling champion across all departments, as I say, and that includes those that believe that they're not directly involved in food waste prevention or recycling and waste prevention as a whole. Include waste reduction goals into your internal communications, and also onto your guest-facing poster, signage, etc. website. This holds you accountable. Again, to touch on what Simon said earlier, that helps with your to demonstrate authenticity when it comes to your sustainability goals. We suggest that you have it written into your SOP, and it's trained out to new staff joining, team briefings. This way, we're not asking the team to do something above their job. It is part of their job. And with the high turnover that we have within the hospitality and food service sector, particularly hotels, it's key to get it into the onboarding process, so that from the very start people are aware of the strategies and procedures. Celebrate the wins, shout about it. This is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would already be doing it. So when you have a success, make sure you celebrate it with your team, with your guests, etc. Track the progress and praise the teams for the progress that they're making. Again, we know this engages the teams. We know that this then helps for a long-term strategic change. And ultimately, this becomes a culture change that starts with inclusion, making sure that recycling is a shared success story for everyone. And final tips from me is use the websites that we have. The links will be shared. Create smart and achievable but challenging targets, and continue to revisit your action plans regularly. Celebrate the successes and share with your teams and customers. So yeah, thank you very much from me, and I'll hand back to Louise.
Louise, you're on mute.
Thanks, Simon. Amazing. Thanks so much, Lindsay. If anyone ever wants to reach out to Gardens of Grub team, I would really recommend it, because they've got so many storytelling and case studies that will just inspire and motivate you. And like I said in the chat, most of their resources are free. So definitely utilize it. Thanks, Simon and Lindsay, so much. I will just share my screen. I've got 2 more slides, guys. If anyone has any questions, do pop them in the chat now and we can answer them if there is any. Okay. If not, have we got any questions? Yes.
Everyone's taking it very easy on us.
I'm really happy. I'm completely understand. We've sort of given you a really high level overview of all the compliances that are coming down operationally with your energy, with Simon at Mission Net Zero, and then with regards to the recycling, specifically the food waste with Gardens of Grub. So I know it's a lot of information we've crammed in a really short space of time, but it's really just to highlight that this stuff is happening, and to give you some contacts if you do need to comply and next steps. So if there are no questions, you can use these lovely QR codes marketing have created for me. So you can download this compliance checklist on their feature stuff for EPC, TM44 and the recycling requirements, and some links on there. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to advise, guide or make recommendations. And I would really recommend staying tuned for our next series of webinars. We've got some huge updates on our portal happening in the next 2 weeks, with way more solution driven tools to help you with circular economy and your reporting. So they all go live in the next week or so, and then we're going to be holding webinars on the 15th and the 22nd to sort of update you and answer any questions to make sure you're getting best use out of the portal. Also, we've got our award show on the 9th of May. So yeah, hope to see some of you there. If you're not, I think we've got a couple of tickets left. So hopefully see you there, and lovely to connect. If not, thank you all for your time. We will share all the slides. The recording has happened and we'll add that into our portal, but everyone's details will be shared after this webinar. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Louise. Lindsay,
thank you, Simon. Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.